after having the lunch. But come on, this is Krypton Awards. Can I hear it? Yeah. Come on. We have all big leaders and panelists over here. It has to be interesting, yeah. We have so many ideas coming up. Okay, so now this is the second panel for the day. What is the panel about? It's about role of technology in supply chain management. Technology is developing each and every day. We have new technologies coming in. First, we had to go to the restaurant to get food. Now food comes right at our doorstep. We don't have to even bargain with them. We have cheap discounts. Okay, so now for the panel. We have a really interesting panel today. So, our moderator for today, it's going to be Mohit Jauhari. Okay, as I call up the panelists, I request them to please come on stage and have a seat. Mr. Mohit Jauhari. Mr. Mohit is the head of supply chain management at Sri Ram Piston and Rings. He's going to be our moderator today. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. He's the GM of supply chain, Reliance Retail, Pharma. Check. Then we have Mr. Purushottam Tatkar, Head 3PM IMEA, Henkel. Mr. Vineet Kumar, GM and Head Distribution and Supply Chain for Deepak Fertilizers and Petrochemicals. Then we have Mr. Amol Prasadi, Head Supply Chain, Metro Bands. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Umesh Madhyan, VP Logistics from Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages. That's fizzy, huh? So, Mr. Mohit, our moderator, please take on this panel and make this afternoon, which is already interesting, even more interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't get your name, please.
Sorry?
I didn't get your name.
Rion.
Rio. Thanks, Rio, for a quick introduction for all of us. And as you can see, I have a very esteemed panel with me. I have a bit of a throat problem. So as you can see, I have a very, very esteemed panel, both on my left and my right. And this topic, technology in supply chain management, is a passion for me. I mean, personally, it's a passion for me. I've been in supply chain for, the panel itself here is close to 200 odd years of experience sitting on this podium. So, a big round of applause for the co-panelists. I'll keep on doing that because I need to make you awake because this is a post-lunch session, and while we'll try and make it interesting, I'll make sure that none of you sleeps. So, I mean, as I was speaking, this topic itself gives me goosebumps because I've been associated with supply chain and been dealing with technology in supply chain for the past 27 years now. And there's a lot happening in technology on a supply chain perspective, but we are just at the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot which can happen, and I have a lot of questions which my co-panelists are going to answer, and they'll tell you the future of what we are, I mean, where we are and where we are headed and how we are going to make it happen. So that's going to happen. From a supply chain perspective, I always quote about 3 C's. Now, what are these 3 C's? The first is connect, communicate, and the third is, any guesses? I'm going to keep you awake for sure. Collaborate. So connect is first, you tie up the strings. Communicate, you pass on information. And once you build trust, you get into collaboration. So that's the 3 C's that are going to be the pillars of any supply chain going forward. Customer expectations, as the host was just speaking about, I mean, customers are king these days. We all expect the moon as far as our expectations are concerned, and that's how some of the companies like, say, Grofers, for example, I gave this example a few months ago as well, but Grofers, they've, I mean, totally, now Blinkit for that matter, they've transformed the way businesses are run. 10 minutes for you to get anything at your doorstep, I mean, is it a joke? I mean, it would have been a joke 6 months back, but now it's a reality. So that's how things are transforming, and this is just, as I said, it's the tip of the iceberg. You wish for it and it's going to happen in the near future. That's how interesting the whole supply chain and the logistics world is going to become. So with that, I would come to the first question for the gentleman sitting on the extreme right. Any guesses who is? Just to keep you awake. Umesh Madhyan from Coca-Cola Beverages. The question that I have for him is, what according to you are the best practices in supply chain, and which have you deployed at Coca-Cola?
That will take a whole day, but I'll try. So good afternoon. बहुत rice खाया. Good afternoon. Solid. Okay. So I seriously thought when you said 3 C's, one of them will be Coke. I seriously thought. So if you guys want to see the future of tech, if you guys want to see the future of logistics or supply chain, talk to someone in Coke, talk to someone in my team, and you'll know what future is and how we inspire technologies from within India, within our problems, within startups, great startups of India, and also from outside India where we already have a proof of concept ready. So in terms of tech, yes, we have all these solutions possible. We have the most highest dense warehousing storage solutions. So we have one of our best warehouse in west of India in Gujarat called Goblej, where we do 406 pallets per hour consistently. With how many people? Any guesses? It is a 14,000 pallets, so roughly 6 lakh cases. Does even work? 6 lakh cases, 14,000 pallets, 406 pallets per hour. Okay. Hello. Better? Better? There? Okay. So any guesses how many people run this warehouse? Any guesses? How many people should run a warehouse of 300 trucks and 6 lakh cases? Probably 300 people, 350. We run it with 45. So it's an automated warehouse where we do mixed pallet making, we do storage of bulk, we do dispatch of bulk, we do dispatch of small loads as well. So it's the end warehouse. It's not a feeder warehouse. We don't believe in hub and spoke. It does not feed a depot. It feeds the customer directly from the truck with all complexities involved. And we are expanding them more and often. So Siliguri is already one in West Bengal, which is ready this year for the first time. And we will have a couple of them more next year. So that's on automation of warehousing. Now let's talk loading. So normally 1,000 cases, 3 people will take how much time to load? 60 to 90 minutes, roughly. What would you say if I say we do it in 3 minutes? 3 minutes with press of a button. No single person involved. The driver can go and click the button and 1,000 cases loaded, 3 minutes, and he's out. That's an auto loading dock which we have. Deepak Fertilizer also has it. And he'll talk about it more probably. So we use all those kind of technologies. We used to think about RFID for yard management of 300, 500 trucks, but we use IoT. We did RFID, we use IoT. We have a state-of-the-art TMS, which is state-of-the-art because it is 65% customized. There is no state-of-the-art TMS available, so you can't find it. Don't fight with SAP, Oracle, or Blue Yonder. It's not available. So it's 65% customized. It's purely digital, and that's what we do. So this is just a small trailer. There is a lot which we do on tech and which we believe in solving problems with tech. We are working on drones. We are working on AI. We are working on a lot of IoT implementation ideas, both in manufacturing and trucks and supply chain. But I'll leave it to that. Coming to the trends in technology, your question. I think trend number 1, especially post-COVID, is going paperless. How do we have documentation which is electronic? How do we have digital signatures as well on invoices rather than a POA assigned CFA signing on his own? Very rudimentary, right? So how do we exactly get out of all this and go paperless? That's number 1. And in terms of tech, which is leading number 1 for people to do this, is RPA. RPA is no more RPA. Robotic process automation is also hyperbots right now, which integrate AI cameras, so on and so forth, and it's got super complicated rather than sticking only to conventional robots who do RPA jobs. That's number one. Number two, how do we eliminate touch? For example, e-learning. Why do you want to touch, let's say, a driver, 300 drivers, and train them or counsel them on road safety, etc.? We should do e-learning. So we have solutions which are e-learning kiosks, which are very smart. They can track drink and drive, they can track fatigue, they can do everything which a counselor can do, and that kind of automation with our partners. And these are all broadly startups. These are not IBMs or great IT companies of the world. So that's number two. Number three, most important trend post-COVID is how do we go autonomous? How do we go productive? The ASRS which was there in booklet which I spoke about was actually a boon for us when we realized, because there were less people which we wanted, there was social distancing which was maintained. Hello, yeah. So there was social distancing which needed to be maintained, and automation warehouses obviously give you that edge because there are only 15 people per shift, and you can run it with ease with all the operations in place. So that autonomous productive environment of logistics supply chain is possible. We can talk about payback, and I'll be happy to take questions at the end of the session. But broadly, these three are the trends, what we are talking about. How do we become productive? How do we reduce touch? How do we go paperless? That's in summary to start with, but as I said, I can talk the whole day on this. Back to you, Mohit.
Thanks, Umesh. Thanks, Umesh. Very nicely explained, and he gave the clue. So please hold on to your questions. Towards the end, we'll have a Q&A with whomsoever you want to ask questions, and I'll kind of force Shraddha to extend the duration of this session in case required, because there's going to be a lot of questions that I see coming up from your side. So
Please ask only logistics. Don't ask me how do you make coffee.
If I can just add
yeah, sure.
one or two points here. So I think Umesh very well elaborated on the warehousing automation part. Just to share maybe a few key trends on the front end side also with the customer side. So since I face the customer, a lot of tools are now moving, or a lot of organizations are moving away from the concept of so-called demand forecasting. So I would not say it's obsolete, but yes, the trend is that you reduce your dependency on the art or the science of forecasting, because that's bound to be inaccurate. The word forecast itself means that it is just a guesstimate or a kind of a best estimate that you can make, and it will never be kind of the best of the organizations have it at 70, 80, 85. I have not seen any organization crossing 90, 95. So there's always going to be a delta known of, say, either extra inventory or obsolete inventory. So the trend is moving to demand-driven MRP, demand-driven automation, where you keep demand sensing, absolutely. So where you keep a min-max kind of a thing, where you maintain the min levels, the max levels at the start, and then basis only the demand, the consumption, you tend to replenish those stocks. So that's one area. Second, I think a lot of organizations who are mature with, again, a lot of, when I say mature, means they have a good history of data, and reliable history of data is more important. So they are moving to machine learnings, where, because I know I cannot remember at least 5 years of history for my product, say Bicosul or Asthalin inhaler, etc. I cannot remember, humanly not possible. So I will trust that system, that it knows where the peaks are, where the say COVID related impacts are. We sold a lot of remdesivir, now we are choked with a lot of inventory, the other way around. So we know the ups and downs, but I may not remember. The tool will be able to remember the periods of stockouts, the region of stockout, the month of stockout, and hence it will be able to tell where I need to produce extra for which region and how much. So I think those are something, again, predictive analytics, machine learning, demand sensing. So that's the way on the front ending side, where you try to eliminate a lot of waste, a lot of excess, or even the sales loss and stockouts. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Very well said. In fact, just to take you back to what Umesh mentioned, it's not just Blinkit who is doing single minute things. Coke here is doing something similar. And as Gaurav rightly pointed out, algorithms are going to be here to stay. A lot of data sensing, lot of data management, back end, front end, it's going to be all churned into your systems or your company's databases, and that's going to drive your future and the way you look at data and the way you're going to make it work to your advantage. For example, you could look at the past 3 years trends on a monthly axis, and you could predict what's going to happen over the next 3 months or so. So that's kind of data churning that's already happening in various organizations. I'll ask my co-panelists to further elaborate on that as we go forward. But the next question coming up is for Amol. Amol would like to share, would you like to share something on the complexity that you deal with on the supply chain front and how you're going to, or how you handle that? Because complexity is supply chain redefined. So how do you handle that?
Thanks, Mohit. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you today and my fellow panelists, and express my gratitude towards Krypton to getting all the supply chain thinkers on this panel. Complexity is, I think, the shadow of supply chain. Everybody has some complex things, and all the supply chain leaders today are trying to juggle up numbers, trying to build some models on data which nobody is ready to sign off. Okay, we just take raw data from the sales, from the manufacturing guys, from everywhere, and try to build a model and try to bring in efficiency. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. One of the most common challenges what I see is integration of all your suppliers, service providers, and everybody. I always call, in India we have a broken supply chain, because right from my suppliers, manufacturers, people who are handling import, my warehousing, I may be having 25, 30 service providers who are working for me. Okay, so there are 200 suppliers who are just feeding to my manufacturing plant. So my team is procurement team is coordinating with 200 different suppliers. Everybody has a different working style. Everybody has different transporters who are delivering. Okay, so that's one of the upstream. Then you have three.
So what's the solution, if anyone remembers the 3 C's? Connect, communicate, collaborate. Go on, please.
Yeah. And again, you have third-party, four-party manufacturing location. Even your 3PLs, most of the company doesn't have a single 3PL because they don't want to put everything in one basket. You have three different 3PLs, and everybody has their own systems, different way of reporting. How do you bring everybody on one common platform? How do you get that visibility? And even when you're supplying to the market, okay, you have different transporters, okay, different delivery agents. So one of the major complexities I see in India, many companies have a broken supply chain, because I call it a broken supply chain because we don't have 1 or 2 partners who are working from end to end, and getting visibility of your upstream and downstream, okay, through all these different service providers is one of the biggest complexities, because that is where when we sit with all the numbers, I just need to have 2 or 3 guys who are just crunching the reports of each and every guy and trying to put a BI dashboard and to show to my management where we stand, what are the numbers and everything. So I think something on that platform, okay, from technology side, yes, TMS is one of the solution where we're able to integrate a lot of information in real time. A lot of new TMS have come on board, okay, where you are able to get visibility of advanced shipment notification right from your suppliers, imports, what's moving from your warehouse. You are able to integrate 6 to 7 LSPs on the TMS now. So I know few of the service providers have now onboarded on some of the latest TMS which have come in the market. So I think visibility and having the right TMS from technology point is the way future, where we are going like 10-minute deliveries, okay, where we don't know where is the demand going to come. Secondly, since we come from fashion retail, 95% of the new introductions across all companies fail to see any business after 90 days. So all new introductions, if you're introducing 100 SKUs in a year, 95 fail to make a success, only 5 do it. Okay, so in that scenario where the ratio of success for any new introduction is so less, how you manage your demand forecasting. Secondly, the customer has been spoiled for the choice. Every day you have a new company popping up. Just on e-com platform, it brings with some fabulous product, really deep discounts. You are an established player and it will kill you. For that some period, it's gonna kill your market share. Okay, so coming I completely agree with Gaurav's point. Forecasting is just if you're good luck, you're good into your numbers. Else, hardly 60-70% is always what you have on, at least in fashion retail, where you have 22,000 SKUs to work on. Yeah, so TMS and something on the forecasting side. Okay, with the current market scenario, I think that's where the technology has to focus on.
Yeah, very well said, Amol. In fact, connecting your supplier's supplier to your customer's customer, that's the intent of any supply chain. If you are able to seamlessly connect and communicate using blockchains are going to be here before we realize it. It's actually happening these days. And it's not just happening today. If I were to give you an example of, say, 20 years ago, I used to work for a company called Tata Motors. We used to get supplies from Pune plant to Jamshedpur. And there was still, in those days, a company by the name of VI E-Trans who came up to us and said, we can help you track your consignments. And how they did it, they used to give us a card. The card used to capture all the consignment details. And the driver was told wherever he used to reach a HPCL petrol pump, he just had to get the fuel filled up and give the card to the HPCL outlet. They would dial up using internet in those times was on dial-ups. They used to dial up and the information over email used to flow to us. So technology is now a big enabler. What we used to do, so, I mean, in a very, very it looks as if we were in primitive or some kind of that kind of a stage, but that's how things were at that point of time, and now technology is the enabler. So the next question that I want to come to is to Vineet. I would want to know your views, Vineet, on how are you going to use, or how are you already using a digital supply network? Your views on this.
So thanks. Again, such an interesting question. And as Udyan said, this may take the entire day, he will conclude. But what is our view as an organization, as well as my personal view? At this point of time, everybody has a lot of data. So there is no issue on data. And even though supply chain has evolved over and above whatsoever we used to talk about, planning, procurement, and distribution. So nowadays, supply chain is not limited to only and only these three linear functions. In our case, especially, I'll share my own case study. So we are into a business where we have different product. And the complexity is, my raw material is similar for all the products. And products are, one product is being used in pharmaceutical. Other one is being used in mining. And third one is being used in fertilizer. So now, the commodity price during COVID went up 3 to 4-fold. And you have a limited supply of your raw materials. How you are going to allocate your raw material as well as your capacities? This is not only and only you are planning, this is what my demand is coming, this is what my raw material, this is what I am going to give to the customer. No, this is not the limited requirement. The requirement is, as an organization, how we can best out of the available one. It may be possible I am having a great demand of fertilizer, but I am not making money, or I am having a great demand of fertilizer, but I am not able to deliver it to a customer because government is not allowing. I am having a great demand of fertilizer, but at the same time it is not making money. So nowadays it is more the circular supply chain. And it cannot be done by only and only data crunching, or only and only using a simple tool or demand sensing. it is more about how you are not prognosis, how you are doing your error prognosis.
Vineet, you mentioned about circular supply chain. Could you just elaborate a bit for the audience?
Yeah, because nowadays, once you move to the mid to high sized manufacturing, so most of manufacturing having this smart manufacturing. So my manufacturing is connected what I'm going to produce, what I'm producing, and what to be produced. Over and above, I'm having this demand sensing tool. So my entire manufacturing, my synchronization in planning, my synchronization with the customer, I'm having synchronization with my suppliers. So circular means you're not working into only and only planning, distribution and procuring. You are partnering with the entire business. You are just crossing the boundaries and giving a complete solution. Okay, this is not what demand is coming. This is what we have to make best out of the availability. So now again coming to the same this thing. So in my case, once we run this SNOP process, so bigger fight is ki what much allocation I am going to get and why. And once business side in front of you, nobody is able to curtail his own share of the business. But once you are doing in a circular supply chain with what if analysis, with predictive, with error synchronization, and even though more the real-time data analysis. It is not you are doing post facto to 3 दिन बाद सब कुछ हो गया. It should be what should be produced tomorrow, not what should be produced today and this point of time. My business should, my allocation of ammonia should be for 10, my allocation of ammonia should be IC or to fertilizer at this point of time, because tomorrow it will be too late. And this cannot be achieved by manual intervention or just doing data crunching in part and parcels. Once you are well connected, you are having some machine learning inside this, and this the entire data, linked data can be used for decision making, not for analysis purpose, because analysis paralysis काफी कुछ तो बात की बात है, but it should be used for your decision making. And even though in the initial 3C, it was collaboration. So collaboration is not only and only supply chain. Nowadays, supply chain is more over and above only and only the availability of products. It is more how to run business, how to give discounting, from where, on which market we have to provide discounting. Is it required this time or after 15 days? So these all relations can be possible only and only by doing interlinking all of your processes and do some automation.
So great thought, Vineet. In fact, he mentioned about circular supply chains and real-time decisions getting made based on real-time accurate data. Great thought, Vineet. Coming to my next co-panelist, I would want Purushottam to dwell upon the operational excellence that can be achieved basically through integrated planning and execution. And Purushottam from Henkel may have a lot of things to say on this.
Yeah, great. I think once again, good afternoon. Yes, I wanted to check what is an impact of the discussion and then the lunch which we had some time back. So now coming back, I think a lot of great thoughts which have come. No. So now it's another side of a supply chain, because most of my fellow panelists, I think we talked about going to the customer, distribution, front end. Now we are going back. Henkel, mainly if I talk about, it's an industrial supply chain. Obviously we are in consumer business, but what I will dwell more here about an industrial supply chain, what we do, and what all the challenges which we are facing on the consumer front or actual customer front, which you have seen, those gains amplified when it comes back to the supply chain. Because when we come, suppose say, we are already seeing an automotive, take an example, right? Automotive, huge demand, so everyone want to sell, and on other end, someday we suddenly realize, oh, I don't have chips, right? And then I coming down. So what, from an Henkel side, what maybe I would like to just share about my personal thoughts, which we say, an operational excellence which it comes, maybe that's something which comes in the plant, because I also had the third-party manufacturing, which are kind of a strong partners for us, because they are not just the suppliers. We have to strongly engage. We talk on that, but prior to that, we'll talk about a supply chain planning part, which it comes. What we are driving there is a lot of resilience. I think if you have seen last 1.5 years of a time, the most spoken word in the supply chain entire fraternity would be about resilience. Means how are we going to adjust ourselves with the ever-changing environment? Rather, we are responding it to, not reacting it. And we have a very strong initiative which is going on, that how are we preparing ourselves for the disruptions which are going to come, because it's no more a question of asking why I have a disruption. It's the question which is going to come, how am I going to respond for it, and I have to prepare for it. It's going to remain there forever. Today we have a China ports which are getting closed. Tomorrow we might have a Ukraine war which is coming. It has got a huge commodity prices going through the roof. So if this resilience has to be achieved, I think gone are the days when we are going to deal with, oh, I have some meetings which we'll have with some suppliers and I will get some information. It's all technology. We are driving it with certain pilots which we do. I think those are part where we are talking about the risk estimation which it comes. There are now startups which are available globally, because companies like Henkel, we have a lot of stuff, something which is happening somewhere in part of Mexico, you never know, some way, it will have an impact on India, Middle East and Africa, which will come. So this is a risk projection which it does. Those startups which are coming, maybe it's too short time to talk about that. We are doing some pilots and it tells us that, okay, for this kind of a product, this kind of inputs which are coming in, you see a risk which is coming it up. So you have to jack up. The lean part, obviously, which was a buzzword, suppose say 15 years back, I need to have 2 days of an inventory, I need to have 3 days of an inventory. And oh, the best planner is that he's operating with 3 days of inventory. Gone. I think I need to have a right inventory. I think this risk management is really, really critical. Apart from that, I think as Mohit said, the 3 C's really, really the basics, but now those basics have been made more reliable through the use of technology. We have a lot of, earlier, I think maybe now I go bit of an supplier's part. We have a heavy reliance on the performance indicators, how much has been the on-time deliveries related part. Now we are going more towards the leading ones with the help of technology. How has been your shipments which are organized? Because maybe the bigger companies have got an ability to integrate the technology there, which probably many of our suppliers may not have it. And then estimate the risk which is coming in, helping suppliers to initiate the actions, or rather helping yourself to initiate the action. Because what has shown, even this whole COVID period, your supply chain is as good as your weakest link in the supply chain. So I think there is an enormous use of technology which we did. We have building a lot of dashboards. It's not only within data, but then more meaningful information and alert based system. I think because reports are part, nowadays we have hundreds of reports, amazing graphics and other part. But what today morning I was seeing on LinkedIn, on one of the startups which are saying that what we do is different. We don't send you any report. We just send you the alerts on your WhatsApp. And I realized it because it says that this is an actionable information which it comes. So from a planning perspective, I think with a lot of data complexity which is coming in, use of technology is helping us to get a lot of alerts which it parts. And then obviously the connect, collaboration which is coming in, those are a really great part. Second part of an operational excellence, Mohit, if I talk about, I think what we were doing on mainly the consumer parts. We talk about ASRS which is being done. Now this has already started flowing up also to the industrial parts. We say within India, within our own manufacturing new plant which is coming, we are implementing an automated storage and retrieval system. And what it comes, it's not a huge warehouse, which we say, suppose say 10,000 pallet positions. We'll have only 4,000 with a huge complexity of 1,000 different SKUs. But when we run the simulation out of that before selling this whole idea, because industrials, it's not so, it's pretty stubborn on a lot of these things, because everything comes with your IRR, then your customers and other things which it comes. And it proves out that it's not only the cost, we say that we are able to make commitments also to our customers that once you place an order, that I am able to move it out within 2 hours, 3 hours of time. There are a lot of things, kind of pick to light systems, because some of our products are small products, high complexity, which it comes. And then what we are implementing that, okay, the order comes, delivery notes get scanned, and then for the picker, because we cannot do that robotic automation. You have huge complexity. But the right use of technology, picker knows that, okay, this product has to be picked up, he scan it, it goes out. The last thing which typically any of our customers want is a mistake, right? Because they got a product and they received some wrong product. So huge implication, means huge use of technology, which is bringing an operational excellence. Because the last thing which I would say here is the technology, at least in Henkel, now we don't see that how it is an efficiency improvement measure. We actually are seeing it in the eyes of the customer. Is it creating an impact? Is it creating a differentiation? Maybe some examples which you say is that we have a sampling experience. That means generally I have a big order and then every customer says, okay, it is tracked. But when I'm asking in sample and then maybe a small bottle of our adhesive when it goes, how this is the day I place an order till the time I received it in my hand, I keep on getting an alert, and that happens at maybe 4 days or 5 days of a time across India, which we do it. So enormous options, use of a technology, but now the difference which we see from last 2 years, we are seeing it from the eyes of a customer, not from an efficiency improvement measure. So this probably thought process is helping us to bring in a lot more new innovations or new ideas to really help us to differentiate, to help our customers to grow, and help also in entire supply chain to benefit from the same. Yeah.
Thank you, Purushottam. Thanks, Purushottam, for a wonderful insight. In fact, the thing that you mentioned about the VUCA world that we live in, you have to be prepared to experience the unexpected and at unexpected times at that. So that's how complex or unpredictable the supply chain has become these days. And Gaurav has something to say on inventory optimization. We talk a lot about inventory optimization, especially post-COVID. Where are we in India on inventory optimization? Your thoughts, Gaurav?
Sure. So just to kind of fight the awesome lunch that we had, just to keep everyone awake.
And if you could just keep it to 2 minutes, because I'm getting a time buzz as well.
Sure. Just so any guesses how many pharmaceutical medicines or SKUs would be there currently? Because right now I am into management of the retail for pharmaceuticals. So any guesses in terms of how many SKUs roughly? Anyone?
My friend on my right is going to sponsor a pair of shoes for the one who guesses it right. So now any guesses? That's more like it. I mean, I like it.
So 1,000, 10,000, okay. So sorry. Okay. So roughly including all, so we have categorized super fast movers of the likes of Bicosuls and Dolos and Crosins, etc. They are super fast. Then there are fast movers, which also run very well. So the kind of category leaders, if I can say, in each brand are like Shellcals, Asthalins, etc. And then you have the non-fast movers or the non-moving, which will be prescribed, say, once by a doctor in a week, in a month, kind of. So all in all, if we accumulate, because we have to keep entire range, anything can be ordered in a prescription, where I am representing Reliance Retail. So we see we have to manage pan-India almost 47,000 SKUs. So that's, if I include...
No one came close, na? So he saves a pair of shoes.
Left out non-medical products.
cosmetics and all that
No,
stuff.
so
which also
it
are part of
includes
our-
it includes pharma as well as OTCs, of course. I agree. So all inclusive, because we have to keep the entire range. We don't know what a customer can order through our app. He will search and it has to be there, otherwise we lose the sale. So that product has to be there, and hence when we try to manage this huge chunk of SKUs, it is really I would say a very tough task. But the answer, if I can say, lies, one is what I think Mohit has been reiterating from the beginning, the 3 C's, very, very important, because supply chain, especially planning, inventory team has to collaborate a lot with business to understand the demand sensing, then has to talk to even the sales people. And trust me, the tools are really, really important, because we cannot remember the history. But at the same time, tool will do a very, I would say, base and a limited till say taking you to a 50-60% accuracy. Then comes your collaboration. How much or how frequent you collaborate with your sales teams, how frequent you understand or go to the market to understand the real on-ground demand sensing or demand challenges also, if I can say, that's very, very important. Also taking a cue from what he mentioned is about not doing a post facto analysis, but following your lead indicators. So I think very relevant, very important, because when you look at, okay, I missed this sales loss happened, or I have non-moving inventory, either ways you are doing a kind of a post facto. But when you start tracking your lead indicators in terms of your fill rates, in terms of your availabilities, in terms of where your prescriptions are starting to move, what customers are starting to order, and there comes again predictive analytics. It predicts, it tells you what could happen, and it gives you an inference, okay, you have to action this in so and so state. So again, India, we know all, and I think it's a very cliched statement, it's 27 states to be particular, and not one geography at all. So you have to behave very differently, not just with every class of SKUs, but also with every region to define that strategy for inventory. And very, very important again is that a lot of organizations look at SKUs or look at class and take a lot of gut feel based calls, whereas I think it is very important, especially in case of inventory management or inventory optimization, to look at data driven decision making, which again, when you look at right data, right set of numbers, right set of data points, you can lead to again the right decisions, and hence you can prompt or you can present it to your management in terms of the SNOP by doing the right demand SNOP, supply SNOP, and in the reconciliation and executive SNOP finally presenting what you want to keep for which class of SKUs. Yes, there will be obsolete. We are facing Favipiravir and Remdesivir are obsolete, while I think nobody wishes for the 4th wave, but it's like you have to be prepared, you have to have that inventory, it may expire, it may be consumed, you never know. So you need to have that. Whereas you have to keep churning, how much to have that right stock is a very, very difficult answer to have in terms without any tools. Even the tools will take you to the best of 70-80% accuracy. Your collaboration, you have to be very, very, I would say, proactive in terms of these data points and take real-time calls, and finally give it or present it to your management to kind of try to reduce the redundant or obsolete inventory by your procurement teams or by means of push. You can do a very limited push on pharma SKUs. I cannot push Remdesivir even though I wish to today, but you have to. So you have to take either ways calls and take some hits or kind of that, otherwise that hits your margin. So yeah. So that's about kind of taking data-driven decision making, focus on the lead indicators that will give you the right tracks.
In fact, I wonder if someone could, in the near future, win a Nobel for developing a wonderful inventory management tool. I mean, that's the potential of this particular area. I mean, what he said had a lot of pain. You could not have understood the pain because he's sitting on a lot of inventory which he's answering for, and he doesn't have an answer. I mean, he cannot obviously predict the fourth wave. So that's how typical or how difficult it is to predict inventory or to develop an inventory modeling tool. One quick last question, because we have absolutely run out of time, but my friend on the right is very, very passionate about developing logistics strategies. So maybe a couple of examples. Umesh, if you could elaborate with.
I'll keep it brief, like the mutual fund conditions apply wala aate na, वैसे पे फटाफट. So I think 3-4 large pillars. Number one pillar for the strategy right now is being productive, of course, on how do we become productive and use more tech that way when I say productive. The second important strategy I think is somewhere I think we touched upon where we said you work more on the lead indicators than the lag. How do we reorient this whole thing instead of working on the service, for example, working on the fill rate? It's important to break it into different buckets and work on the lead indicators more so that happens. So questioning the dashboard is something which also COVID, literally pushed us hard. So that is another area which you should look at. The third is, I think every problem has a tech solution. It's very important for you guys to understand how can you have people who are creative, who can apply the right technology to a right problem. So no problem cannot be solved through tech is what at least I have experienced in my last at least 8 to 10 years with Coke. So make sure you challenge application of technologies in every problem. I think that is what one would help. Also, when you see automation, you do a payback which is a little holistic and end-to-end. Payback always has two parts. One is qualitative, one is quantitative. So it's very important for you, do not forget the quality side of it. For example, when we do palletized transportation, we do about 80 to 90% of trucks loading palletized instead of cases. It has a very larger impact on quality of the product because the bottles which you consume are untouched from the end of the line till the shelf. You're the first one touching them. So that's a very different engineering which leverage it gives you on the packaging side. It makes sure safety as well along with it. So all these are broadly elements which you need to take care of when you build a strategy. Last but not the least, see, tech is growing more versus what it was, and it will still grow more. The most important thing is how do you make people capable? The biggest hindrance to implementation of tech is people. So how do you have people capability in parallel, and how do you have people who are right for that job? Becomes more and more important. Only then you will embrace tech and embrace new ideas and new startups. So I'll keep it brief with that. Happy for Q&A if we have time.
Yeah. Wish we had maybe another half an hour, Shraddha, because this was getting very, very interesting. Because people is going to be the key going, forward. So, training people how to make the best of their wherewithal, their intelligence is going to be very, very important. How to train them, upskill them is going to be another challenge for all industries. So since we've run absolutely out of time, I'm just going to request, in case there's 1 or 2 open questions to any of my co-panelists or to myself, we'll be happy to answer that. And rest, we'll have it besides this session, so maybe we'll have the question answers beyond this as well. So, couple of questions in case you have. If you could just introduce yourself for everyone.
Okay, I am Tapan Shah. I provide procurement excellence consultancy, having worked in procurement for 3 decades. And I also give advice on logistic procurement and 3PL procurement also, in case anybody needs that value. Anyway, the question is, we have a lot of technology solution providers available in the market. There's a big crowd there. So, how do we pick up the best solution provider suiting your needs? How do we, shortlist that and let the best one which suits our needs?
So, any takers?
I think a very, very valid question which it comes. What maybe I will give my personal experience there of selection. Generally, a solution provider selection doesn't happen only based on maybe the cost fast factors other one. I think it has gone way beyond. First is assessment that what kind of capabilities these solution providers have, to what extent they are able to accommodate, because everything ultimately need a customization. He said, I think they have 65% customization. How flexible they are, how accommodative they are, and what kind of a tech capabilities we are having. That assessment is very, very, very important. Otherwise, you will have a lot of failure which can come, because as you grow on, I think our functional teams also start really realizing what is the potential which they have and how they can make best use of it. So if you don't have a right capable solution provider, it can go on. If the rigid solution provider you're having, probably I have a product and okay, you go it and my way, highway, then it's gone. I think it's bound to failure. You need a highly flexible provider, means at least the capabilities needs to be there. I think
more important is you have a bouquet. You keep on evaluating, have a bouquet. For example, and also mostly startups. These will be startups. I'll give you a couple of examples if you can note. One is Adverb from Noida for automation. There is Impressions in Pune. There is IntelliBox, one kind of transport solution disruptive provider. Then there is Lovi or Technos, which does on more problematic supply chain areas, solving through e-learning, digitization. So these are very small, these are not large IBMs or Accentures. These are very small companies. And you will have to have a bouquet of them and keep on evolving and making sure it's basically market intelligence, nothing else.
Yeah, I just give an example where he was talking about demand-driven MRP. We did a pilot. In one case, when our pilot, I think within 3 months or 4 months, our proof of concept started in a live environment. That was just about. In another case, I think 1 year we are just struggling to make our system ready.
But one has to be prepared for this also.
Yeah, so you'll have to basically go for someone who can customize a solution for you, but the person has to be very, very capable. So that's the takeaway from what both these gentlemen just stated. So and they're going to just throw us off the dais, so we'll just have to close it here and keep the... Okay, one last question from the gentleman in the white shirt.
My question from Umesh sir. Umesh sir, as you mentioned, we are facing a lot of challenges in terms of when you are shifting to the change management process. So we have run the program. Basically, I observed from 2016, the reskill, upskill and new skill is a totally problem in entire organization. So we are, as exactly you mentioned, we are investing on it and we have got the success and we have destroyed entire our supply chain process at touch base. And we are running successfully 52 plants at 96 warehouses and 4,800 distributors. We told 1,280 SKUs.
Everything about Adani is big now.
Maybe it's not like that. And I think what you were saying is a different intention.
No, I think bang on. The biggest challenge is not going to be technology anymore, because technology is an answer to all the problems, provided you have the right people to apply them. So I think people is the biggest challenge, nothing else. To me, in every strategy, I would never start without people.
And people here who own factory, your own practice is a more challenge rather than going to...
No, obviously. So when I said we run it with 45 people, the ASR solution, did we started running it with 45 on year number 1? No, not at all. It takes years for you to get there, to convince people that, okay, now the operation does not rely on you but on machines. And now you take care of machines, they'll take care of you. I think it's a big change. So right now, the biggest shortage we have is talent, which is creative. So if you read the Forbes magazine last year, which said that the number 10 skill which we needed in 2015 for logisticians was to be creative. That is now number 1. It is exactly from 10 to 1. So it's today you need the logistician to be super creative of applying a tech, creative of ensuring that you implement the applied tech. Because even after you implement, there are solutions which Vineet and I were discussing, that even after you implement, you fail. Because people make it fail. So how do you address people right now, and how do you address people for future? And more importantly, how do you address people in academia right now? Because they are being taught IoT. There is no point teaching IoT. IoT will become obsolete in 6 months. There is something new which will come. We have to teach mindsets of change management, of embracing change. So, sorry, it's a big topic. I'm done. Thanks.
And in fact, I have the most difficult thing to do because I have to wind up this discussion because it's going to be a never-ending discussion, that's for sure, because we have so much to talk about this topic. We could, in fact, I discussed with one of my colleagues a few days back that we could have an entire day session just discussing technology and supply chain. So, sure.
During this implementation, I have started my PhD also for this subject.
So the next is the Nobel, which I was just discussing about. So maybe you could focus on that Nobel, and with that we come to the end of this lively, interactive discussion. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience, and thanks to my co-panelists, and thanks most of all to Krypton, because they are the ones who have got us all here. Thank you so much, and I hope you won't mind us overstretching the time because we have had a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohit. I think we set a record for having the most energetic panel up post lunch. And thank you so much. So now I'll request Mr. Abbas Akbar, National Account Manager of E-Commerce Transport, to felicitate all our panelists. Please, Mr. Abbas. Yeah, so first we have our moderator, Mr. Mohit. Come on, friends, show energy again. Yes, Gaurav, Bhatia. Mr. Purushottam. Mr. Kumar. Thank you so much, Patrick.